So how much sleep do you have to get to be a successful student? Well, you've probably heard lots of different numbers bandied about, and it's always interested me now that I've started doing research how many things that we take for granted are just something that someone researched and the media picked one tiny little thing out of it and suddenly it became fact. For example, we only use 10% of our brain. So that was based on a research paper where, again, a journalist picked out one little bit, took it out of context, and suddenly it's become a fact. Now, I'd heard that students should have 9 hours and 22 minutes of sleep a night. And when I looked on the internet, it said, yep, around 9 to 10 hours of sleep is what you're after. But I tried to find out, well, what was the actual research paper? Who actually showed this? And it turns out that in 1980 there was a study done where they put a whole lot of students in a university lab. So they kept them in there, they couldn't go. And then they let them sleep for as long as they like. So they said, you sleep as long as you want, we're not going to wake you. And they found that pretty much students always slept for a bit over 9 hours. So this became accepted, well, that means that students must need 9 hours of sleep at least every night. But other researchers say, well, just because that's what people do when you let them, doesn't mean that's actually good for them. It's like saying, well, let's see, when people are allowed to eat whatever they like, perhaps they eat lots of pizza and junk food, but that's not necessarily the best thing for them. So I think in the end of the moment, the jury's out. There's no actual number that says this is the right amount of sleep. I think what we have to do is accept that it's very individual. Regardless of whether you're a student, a teenager, an adult, the amount of sleep that you need each night is going to really vary from person to person. I also think that for different people, you need to take into account what's happening in your life, the processes you're going through, the stress that you're under, the other activities that you're doing. The way to tell is to start to really pay attention to your body. So to listen what your body's saying. If you lie down and it takes you fall asleep instantly, then that's a sign you're not getting enough sleep for your body. It should take around about at least 10 to 15 minutes to fall asleep. And if you wake up in the morning and you're exhausted, then that's a sign you probably aren't getting enough sleep either, or perhaps you're not eating healthily or enough exercise, or perhaps all three. But it is really different. You probably know people, I certainly do, 6 hours and they feel fantastic. In fact, I have a friend, a colleague that I once worked with. If you heard that funny noise, that was just my cats going crazy. A colleague I worked with who, from a very young age, from a tiny little toddler, she only slept 5 hours a night. And she drove her parents insane because she was awake all the time. That's all that her body needed. So you do need to really pay attention and listen to your body. Now, some people say, well, what about this whole concept of the sleep bank? So you haven't had enough sleep during the week. So what you do then is you sleep an enormous amount during the weekend. The problem is that what this is doing is it's disrupting your circadian rhythms, and these are the patterns in the body that determine when and how much we sleep. So by sleeping an enormous amount on the weekend, you're feeling a bit better, but it's not changing anything for the coming week. You're going to be feeling tired again all week. So if you're sleeping huge amounts on the weekend, almost like you're catching up on your sleep, then this is a sign that during the week you need to try and go to bed a lot earlier. And we're talking sort of like at least an hour. Ideally, you want to try and, the aim is to go to bed early enough so that it averages out so that you don't need that massive catch up on the weekend. It is okay to have a power nap. A power nap's when you come home from school or from work and you're feeling exhausted. You think, oh, I've got all this stuff to do, I can't even begin to start. So you have what's called a short power nap. It's really refreshing, it's invigorating, it gives you your energy back. But the key is set an alarm around about half an hour, no more than about 40 minutes. Any longer than that and you'll disrupt your sleep patterns for the evening as well. So really important then to focus on paying attention to your body, listening to what your body needs, because not only does sleep help you with all the wonderful things we know about, like your growth and your development and making you feel better and making you feel happier, it also affects your memory. This is the stage when the brain is laying down all the information from the day that you learn. It's filing it away so it can find it again. So if you're not getting the right amount of sleep for your body, you're potentially making it harder to remember what you're studying, which means you'd have to study longer, and no one really wants that. So hopefully you've got some good ideas to start thinking about your sleep and what you might do. In the next tip, we're going to look at the ways in which your sleep, you can improve the patterns of which you sleep. So what can you do to make that a lot better and a lot easier to have a successful time in the way in which you sleep? I think too, for a lot of people, the main thing is to not just be Don't just automatically assume, oh yes, I need 8 hours, or I need 6, or I need 10, because that's what you've always done. So instead you need to really start to watch yourself and how you feel and how you react, and then eliminate other factors as well. And what that'll do is give you a good picture of what you actually need to do. Unlike things like this little annoying thing, this little kitty, they sleep 20 hours a day. And that's not an exaggeration, that's just what cats actually sleep, 20 hours a day. So probably you don't need as much as that.